everybody out there in AARP world. Welcome back. Day 2 around here. We are talking about wellness in 2022 and how we can work some new diets into our lifestyle so that we can achieve our goals. Whether those goals be to lower heart disease risk or to lose some pounds or to just overall eat healthy, we've got some tips and tricks all week that can help you do that and get on board in 2022 in a healthier lifestyle. Today's demo is all about superfoods, which is my absolute favorite diet because the superfood diet doesn't say, no, you cannot have this, you cannot have that. It's just a suggestive diet on integrating more healthy foods into your everyday lifestyle and then definitely pushing out some of those non-healthy habits that we have, like going through a quick drive-through at night and grabbing a bite to eat, or eating after 7 o'clock at night and going straight to bed, but instead grabbing for those nutrient-dense foods that are going to work double time to not only make us feel better after we eat them, but also so that our body can absorb the extra nutrients that they're providing for us. So today we're going to make 2 fun recipes. We're going to make a chicken shawarma. So what is that? It's a Middle Eastern dish. Marinated chicken, usually thighs. That way it's really nice and meaty, but also not dried out. Long time marinade, a lot of spices there, but not necessarily spicy, because I know y'all don't like that out there. Chicken is going to get marinated, and then we're going to cook it in a cast iron skillet. Traditionally, this can be done on a flat top or on a grill outside as well. Chicken gets sliced, packed into either some pita or a tortilla, however you like to eat it. Some sort of sauce inside, could be hummus, could be tzatziki, could be a Tahiti sauce, really whatever you like in there. But today we're going to make a superfood hummus because obviously chickpeas are very high up there on the superfood list. So it's something that we can easily integrate as a snack in the middle of the day or late evening. Or even in this instance, we're going to use it as a sauce to go inside of our wrap, help bring everything together, lots of crunchy veggies at the end. To go along with our chicken shawarma wraps, we're going to have a delicious beet, goat cheese, and charred corn salad. One of my favorite salads that we make here at the Cookery. Great for spring, which is going to be upon us soon when beets are really in season. We'll talk about some awesome substitutions along the way since we are in the dead of winter. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about what I have here for my chicken shawarma. Again, I'm using 2 pounds of chicken thighs. You could use breasts if you like. In a lot of ethnic cuisine, I noticed that they use a lot of thighs, and that's really just because they do retain their juiciness. They do retain just kind of an overall fattier texture to them that makes you feel, what's the word I'm trying
satisfied.
Satisfied. So we're going to go with thighs today. Inside of our marinade is going to be an awesome spice mix. So it's going to be garlic clove, which we're going to cut up here in a second, coriander, cumin, cardamom, cayenne. You can back that down just a little bit, though it's not going to add a super high spice level here. It's just kind of highlighting the other flavors. Smoky paprika, the salt, which I haven't included yet, and black pepper. So I've already got all of that together, ready to go in my spice mix. I've got my lemon on deck. I'm going to need 2 tablespoons of juice. Guess what? That's about how much juice is in a lemon. So we're going to put it all in. I'm going to need some extra virgin olive oil. And then I've also got my handy little Ziploc bag, which I'm going to use to marinate my chicken. I'm going to pile it in, put my spice ingredients on there, add my oil, and then we'll just let that sit out and chill out on the counter while we work on our hummus. So let's get started first on our garlic. I'm going to give it a good smash. If you don't like to use your hands, you can use a close nearby bowl. I do that often because I find it's much easier for me. We're going to break this garlic down into a mince. So first I like to begin by slicing. This doesn't have to be, a perfect mince. It's just going into the marinade. But I do like to mince it up pretty good because it is going to end up cooking in the pan with the chicken. So you want it to be nice and evenly distributed. All right, into our Ziploc bag, our garlic goes. I'm going to add half of my spice mix here. and then the other half on top of the chicken after I add it into the bag. Next is my lemon, giving that a really good roll on the countertop so it can release all those juices. I can see that it's really nice and soft. It's going to give me a ton of juice here. Now we are going with a much shorter marinade time than is recommended in the recipe, which is up to 24 hours. Really don't want to go past that because you're going to literally just dissolve your chicken almost in the lemon juice. So 24 hours is plenty of time. And what we're meaning to say there is if you want to get it started the day before for tomorrow night's dinner, it's going to be super flavorful, but not wanting to let it go much further than that. Lemon right into the old spice mix here. Love these little lemon juicers, which protect us from getting seeds in there as well. Perfect. I'll save those later, put them down my garbage disposal. And then I'm going to put on a pair of gloves here. I don't have to keep washing up. Adding my whole chicken. I'm not going to clean this up too much, maybe just a little bit of cleaning a little bit of fat dangly pieces off. But we kind of like the fat on the thighs, and that's why we buy them. So I'm not going to go too crazy in spending a lot of time cleaning off the thighs. I think if you want to do that, then you may as well just buy breast. And the thighs are going into the bag whole. We're going to marinate them whole, we're going to cook them whole, and then at the end, we're going to slice them. So maybe just those little fat side dangly pieces is fine to get rid of, but I like it all on there.
Give a feel around on the bottom of your chicken thigh. Depending on the brand you get and they were butchering it, you could feel little bits of cartilage and bone in there too. So just give a quick feel, make sure you don't have any bones, and then like she said, the fat is mostly good to use if you don't mind it.
All right, perfect. Looking pretty good. So about 2 pounds of thighs. Had my first shawarma actually just last summer at a festival in St. Louis. Waited in line for a very long time.
Was it worth it?
Nope.
Oh, this one will be worth it if you had to wait in line for it. Yeah. That we assure you.
This is the cookery recipe from one of our awesome classes. Star Wars, right?
No. Oh, superheroes.
Superheroes.
Iron Man's chicken shawarma.
All right. And then the last thing I need to go into my bag, which I believe has a little hole in it on accident. That's all right. We'll work around it. Is a little bit of olive oil. 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. All right. You could, of course, do this in a bowl if you want. Love doing marinades in bags because just less mess, especially when it's chicken. And then the best way to do this is just to get it on the cutting board, roll it all around, get all of those olive oils, lemon juice, and seasonings all moving on through the bag.
Really show the chicken how much you love it.
We are good friends.
She friend zoned the chicken, but that's okay.
And that's looking pretty nice and coated. And we're just going to put this on the back burner while we work on our hummus. Then we'll work on our beet salad. And then we will cook our chicken so that we have some nice hot shawarma to load into our delicious wraps and pitas over here. Traditionally, people eat shawarma in a very thin pita or like a lavash bread or even in a wrap. All right, so I'm going to put that into my chicken bowl. We'll set that off to the side for later. Next thing we're going to do is make our hummus. So I'm going to set this off to the side behind. And then I'm going to show you what's in our hummus ingredients, and then Joe can join me over by the food processor. All right, so hummus. Let's talk chickpeas first. You can buy a canned chickpea. I just recommend getting a really good brand. I love that brand, Simple Truth Organic from Kroger's. A lot of really beautiful chickpeas in there, not a lot of broken pieces. which is a good indication that they've been treated well. You can also use a regular dried chickpea, which is what we had done for today. So yesterday I gave these a good boil for about 2 hours. And then after that, I let them sit overnight. This is a process that we use for hummus, for falafel, and for a lot of other things in our shop if you're just wanting to use a dried chickpea, but you can certainly substitute a canned chickpea in its place. The chickpea has a little bit of a shell on it, and you can see that I can grab it with my hand and peel it. If you want a really, really, truly creamy hummus and you don't want to feel like any texture in it at all, which some people do like because they're used to those grocery store brands of hummus, which are just creamy smooth, then you can use a process where you soak these in baking soda and water, and the peels will actually separate right from the chickpeas. If you like a little texture to your hummus, then you don't have to worry about that too much. You can also, if you're buying a canned chickpea, even though they're canned and ready to go, you can boil them in some water for about 10 minutes to help soften them as well. I personally like a little bit of texture inside of my hummus, so I don't mind the skins. I also don't like the extra work that goes into having to remove it. Along with my hummus here, I've got some ice cubes, some tahini paste, which is kind of what makes it hummus. So what is this? It's a ground roasted sesame seed. This is pretty readily available in most stores right by the peanut butter, or you can hit up the Asian market or the Mediterranean market, which is moved off of Glen, and I'm not sure where that's at now.
I think it's out on Universe.
That sounds great. And then we've got some ground cumin. We've got a fresh lemon. We're going to want to zest that, and we want the juice. And then we've got our olive oil. Now, our olive oil in this application is used raw, so it's really great opportunity. You could use that extra virgin olive oil, which is going to be the best olive oil health benefit-wise that we're going to use because it's from the first cold press. I'm going to go ahead and work on my lemon here, and then our garlic here, and then we'll take everything over to the food processor and get it going. Hummus is so easy and simple to make. It'll last for an entire week in your fridge. It is just a great condiment to put on fresh vegetables. Our pull-apart rolls from Keto Day would be great with some hummus on them. My husband and I put hummus on our chicken burgers.
Oh, yum.
I just absolutely love it. It gives you a lot of energy, too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the perfect snack that is low-fat, great for you, superfood alternative to dip.
It's one of those things that keeps you feeling full for a while, too.
Absolutely.
With how much protein and substance that hummus has to it.
So recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. One of mine was kind of tiny, so we're using 3. And we love garlic, so why not? You don't have to go overboard on this because you're going to end up putting it into the food processor. But I like to mince it up, get it started. That looks pretty good. And now from our lemon, we're going to need not just the juice, but the zest. So we, of course, need to zest it first. It's going to be really hard to zest after you've already juiced it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my microplane here. This is available at Bed Bath & Beyond, the one that I use. And I'm just going to zest until I start to see the white rind underneath the citrus. And I just want the citrus. I'm going to keep turning so that I don't get any of those white bitter pieces. Just want the lemon citrus. I love this little microplane because it kind of holds all of your stuff inside. No need to get another container. You can take it wherever you want to bring it to and not have to put it in something else. Hold on to that right there. And then I have already given my lemon a roll, but just one more roll. Cut this in half. And we'll grab our food. Oh, it's right next to it. Okay. And off we go to the food processor. The first thing I'm going to do is add in my chickpeas. And if you're using a can, you'll want to want to have drained and rinsed those, you can save a little bit of that bean juice that's in the can to thin out your hummus if you like to later. Or if your hummus needs thinned and you accidentally rinsed all of the bean juice down the drain, which I do all the time, then you can use a little bit of hot water and that'll accomplish that same goal for you. I can tell you if you're using fresh chickpeas like we are here today, you probably will need something to thin that out because they're not going to have as much liquid in it. Oops, I need my garlic in there too. So garlic and chickpeas are the only thing I'm putting in the food processor right now. And that goes. And then I'm going to give it a pulse until it looks like wet sand. While that is going, I'm going to add in my ice cubes and let it continue to go. And then I'm going to add in my cumin, my tahini paste, and my olive oil. And then I'm going to look at the consistency, and if I want it to be a little bit thinner or creamier, that's that point where I'm going to decide if I want to add a little bit of warmth. A little good. I just want to press the sides down, make sure that everything is getting incorporated evenly throughout. Give it a little bit of help here. Oh, this just smells absolutely wonderful. Just gonna let this go for a couple minutes so it's nice and creamy. And again, I like a little texture in mine, but I am gonna add a little bit more hot water. A little bit of salt. And our lemon juice. I can see that it's really starting to get nice and creamy. It's starting to work out a lot of its lumps. And then next is going to be taste. I'm going to want to make sure that I season this just the way I want it before I take it out of the food processor, because that's going to whip it into the hummus and make sure that all of the seasonings that I add are evenly distributed. All right, let's give it a taste, see where it's at. Very, very good. And again, I like a really textural hummus, especially inside of this shawarma that we're doing. So for me, this is perfect. I want it to have a little bit of like almost like a peanut crunch. So this is going to be perfect. Go ahead and put it out into my bowl. And then traditionally, we serve our hummus with a little bit of olive oil all over the edge. And then for today, we're using a spice, which is going to be a ground sumac, which is really healthy for you. It usually comes in a leaf or a powder form, and you can find that at the Mediterranean Mart as well. A little more salt on top. Go back over here, Joe. Right. There's our hummus. This recipe gives plenty to be able to do some on the side and be able to put some in our wraps. Beautiful. All right. Next up is our beet salad, which I'm super excited about. Now, obviously, we've already roasted the beets for you today, but I'm definitely going to show you how to break those down just so that you're aware. So when you do a beet, you want to put something down on your cutting board to prevent it from staining. And so I found that the parchment paper works great. You might have to switch it up and put another one down in between. You also want to make sure that you're wearing some gloves because they stain your clothes, they stain your hands, but they're an awesome superfood that provide a ton of iron and zinc and other things that we want to put into our body. Got my gloves. My knife ready to go. And again, this recipe called for 4 beets, which I have already roasted ahead of time to make sure. But I wanted to show you how to break one down. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do beets. You can wrap the whole thing in foil, bake it just like that. Then after about 45 minutes, pull it out and just remove the skin. But I actually like a little bit of the caramelization that comes from roasting the beet already processed and broken down into its cube form, at least for this salad. So that's why we do it this way. So I already got rid of the greens, which could be used in other applications, but we're not using them today. And then after that, I literally just trim the sides. You could use a peeler, but I found it to be a lot messier because you're going to get a lot of juice going everywhere. So I like just running my knife down, giving it a bit of a shave.
It's beautiful color on this side.
It's a nice looking beet. And right now, mostly what you're going to find is red beets. When the spring hits, we'll be able to find candy cane beets, yellow beets, and other varieties. And if you wanted that color differentiation in this salad, which would look beautiful, you could sub butternut squash for some of your beets in here. And then you would have that beautiful orange and this beautiful beet red color. All right. So then after we've taken all of the skin, we've taken the top and the bottom off, the next best way to do this is to cut it into lengths, like so. And I like beets because they're not terribly tough to get into. You know, like a squash, it's going to take a lot of power to get through that. These are pretty easy to cut. And then I'm just breaking down in my cubes, and I'm really paying attention to the size and trying to make sure that they're uniform so that they cook at the same rate and time in the oven. And when I did the 4 beets earlier, I did have to change my parchment paper in between just to make sure because of the cut. Just to make sure I didn't stain it. If you do stain it, eventually it does come off. Just takes a lot of water.
Little elbow grease will get you there eventually.
I didn't start like on my 30s.
I didn't start liking beets till recently either. It's one of those things where if you don't know if you like it, you'll never go and grab a beet. You just got to try it once, cook it the right way. True that.
A little bit of salt and pepper on there. A little bit of olive oil.
A lot of people have iron deficiencies. Beets have tons of iron, both in the beet themselves and in the greens on the top. Either way, you're going to eat.
And that's all I'm doing to them. Roasting them with a little bit of salt and pepper. Around a little bit. Into the oven they go. And we're roasting those at 400 degrees, and it takes about a half an hour. And you'll just keep poking them with a fork, and you're looking for that consistency that's the same as like a potato. You can put a fork through it, but the fork still comes back out. All right, so what you end up with as an end result is your beautifully roasted beef. They're going to have a lot of good flavor on them, just from almost like candying because of all of their natural sugars right there in the oven. I was sure to spray my pan to make sure that they rolled around nicely for me. So there those are. That's going to be part of our salad. The corn is going to be another part of our salad. So what have I done to this? I've salt and peppered it, put a little bit of oil on it, stuck it underneath the broiler. Took about 10 minutes, but I'm wanting this delightful char. That's going to play very nicely in the salad. Beautiful. That right back on it. Just cutting that right off the cob. If you couldn't find corn on the cob, because it is obviously a seasonal thing, you could definitely use like a frozen or a canned corn. All right, and that's looking pretty good. So let's make our goat cheese mix next. I'm going to grab my goat cheese out of and get all of our other components out. So here we go. Our beef and corn salad consists of obviously the beef and the corn, which we've already talked about. And then we've got my absolute favorite cheese in there. Got some goat cheese. About 10 ounces of that. That's going to get mixed with some fresh herbs. We're going to use parsley and basil today. Could be anything else that you like. We're also going to add some salted pistachios to our recipe. I'm just going to chop these up just a tiny bit. And then we're also going to make a dressing on the side. So let's go ahead and start with our goat cheese. We're going to add in 6 basil leaves and 2 tablespoons of parsley into the bowl with the goat cheese. We're going to mash it up with a little bit of salt and pepper and then some of our agave nectar. So let's get started on that first. Then we're going to pop this right back into the fridge so that it can chill down and be the consistency where we can still crumble it on our salad instead of being, kind of softened to where we're going to mash it like right now. Okay. So our 6 basil leaves, I know you guys have seen us do like a chiffonade. So we're going to do exactly the same thing today. So I'm going to pull all of my basil leaves right from their stem. I'm going to stack the larger ones up on the bottom. Smaller ones go onto the top. And I know it says 6, but some of these are really itty bitty. So I'm throwing a couple extras into the mix. I'm going to put my biggest leaves on the bottom. I'm going to roll my small leaves up into the center. Like so. Any of those itty bitty ones like this, just roll them all right up in there. And then we're going to roll it long ways, like a cigar. And then we're going to cut across them, perpendicular, into a tiny ribbon. And that is the basil chiffonade. And we do this to prevent bruising. Basil's not meant to be chopped. causes dark discoloration that's not super appetizing. Probably doesn't change the flavor much, but it doesn't look. We're going to add that to our goat cheese. Then we're going to do our 2 tablespoons of parsley. So I like to just take my knife, run it right up these parsley stems. So I can try and get all the leaves off. We'll save those parsley stems though for later, and we'll probably put those into a homemade stock. We're going to bunch up our parsley into a tiny little bowl. This is my favorite way to do it. And then just run that right across. Get a really nice chunk. And that's going to go into our goat cheese as well. And then we need about a half a teaspoon of agave nectar or honey. Either of these things are going to work fine.
If you struggle with allergies and you're making this over the summer, use some local honey. Using honey that was made with the same flowers that your allergies are from really help reduce that.
Or you can even buy pollen and take them. They even sell pills.
I did not know about the pollen. So that's great.
And we're just mashing this up. And what we're doing is flavoring our own goat cheese. I do too. And it's actually healthier for you than like a cow's milk cheese.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be way less fat as well. It's way less lactose.
But you're not losing out on any of the protein that you get by the cow's milk.
Totally. All right. So now there we have our own homemade herby goat cheese. And we're building a really nice color profile here with our corn and our beets. This is going to be a really pretty salad. All right, I'm going to pop this back into the fridge, and then we'll make our dressing. All right, this dressing makes a little bit of extra, and that's an intentional thing. It's so absolutely delicious, light, and refreshing. So now you can have a little extra for your next salad. I'm going to make this right into my little measuring cup here, and I've got 1.5 cups of fresh orange juice. Now you could just buy a straight orange juice from the store. Ours is about half and half. So half from fresh oranges. You could also cut this dressing recipe in half if you didn't want to make as much. All right, and then 1 shallot peeled and minced. This is what the shallots look like from Walmart. They're kind of small, so we're actually going to, most of the time I buy a shallot about twice the size. And we're going to treat these exactly like we do our onions here. Cutting the top off, getting a flat base, cutting in half, right through the root, then peeling. And we like shallots in our dressing because they're a little bit less astringent than onion. They have almost like a sweet oniony flavor. So they're just really good for a citrusy type vinaigrette. A little less harsh than an onion. All right, and after we have all of those cleaned up, we're going to, again, treat them just like an onion. Little slit. You won't be able to get our 3 slits like we normally do, probably more like 1 into each one of those. Back to the root without going through. And then just like the onion, nice slices, vertically straight down so that we get a beautiful mince. If you don't have a shallot, you can use an onion, a red onion, and just use about half of the amount. It's a little bit strong. It's going to have a different flavor. You just need a little bit less. But I definitely have substituted many, many times. All right, I'm just giving that another rough mince over the top. And that looks pretty delightful. This dressing also makes a wonderful marinade. Excuse me. And into our dressing. All right, next we go 1 teaspoon of thyme leaves. So I'm just going to shake the thyme leaves off here. The thyme we grew ourselves, a little bit dry. Which makes it a little bit easier to just kind of roll right off of your stems there. Excuse me. Sorry, folks, had to get a drink real quick. All right, and so I'm just looking for a teaspoon of thyme leaves. Not much. Sorry. I got a bone in my throat.
Once you get something stuck in there.
Okay. You'd think we were making spicy pickles or something. Pardon me. I'm so sorry. All right. That looks pretty close to a teaspoon. Maybe just a couple more here. There we go. Now, if you're making a sauce with thyme, you can just put the whole stem in. Then the leaves will fall off into the sauce, and then you go back through and pick out your stems. But with the dressing, you kind of have to take it the whole way there. Give that a good chop. Where we have a nice teaspoon. You could definitely use dried thyme too. You could have fresh in a pinch. Just again, just half the amount. All right, let's see what else. 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. 1, 2, and then half a teaspoon of our orange zest. So I have some of these little mini oranges here. I'm gonna grab my zester. Here we go. And we're going to follow exactly that same process we did with the lemons, where we're just going till we start to see the white and then we're backing up. That way we get only the citrusy, oily parts of the fruit, which is going to be the brightness and the freshness. Perfect. Into the dressing we go. And then my oil I already have mixed together. We're using half olive oil, 1/3 cup, and then half hazelnut oil, 1/3 of a cup. Any oil that you have that's a healthy oil for you is going to be great for this. And then just a little bit of salt and pepper. And we're going to do this in a whisking motion at the same time. So I'll add my pepper, add a little bit of salt. Now I've got my whisk. I'll start to bring it all together. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So the last thing to do is chop our pistachios, and then we'll have all of the components to our salad. And we'll give a little taste to our dressing as well. Very good. Nice and light, fresh. Just needs a pinch of salt. I'm also remembering that the goat cheese is slightly salty, so I'm trying to hold back on the salt. And because we know it's not good for us. And then I'm going to put my pistachios out. I'm going to give them a light chop. I'm not going vigorously here because I don't want them flying all over. Any nut really plays well here. We already used almond flour on keto day, so trying to pick a different nut here, but I love the pistachios with the beef and the goat cheese with the nice pairing. This is one of the only nuts that I like to eat that I don't necessarily have to toast.
I could eat pistachios all day long.
I love them. They are high fat nuts, so you don't want to go crazy.
Buy the ones in the shell, though. That way, when you're eating them as a snack, you have to do some work. Take them out of the shells, and you can't eat as many.
You'll definitely eat less.
If I had
like sunflower seeds,
yeah,
right?
if I had a bag of shelled pistachios, I would eat as many as were in the bag.
All right, there we go. That looks beautiful. So what we're going to do is get our chicken shawarma going in the pan. And while that's moving through there, we're going to go ahead and assemble our salad now that we have all of our ingredients on deck and ready to go. All right, so let's get that chicken out. Put right back here. Again, traditionally, this is done on a grill. I'm going to use a cast iron skillet today. Oh, it's our favorite thing to cook with around here. I'm going to get my skillet hot before I even think about putting my meat in there.
If you don't have a cast iron skillet, go and grab one. Not only just because they make the best tasting food, but it's kind of a family heirloom. After you grab one, you can start a family tradition, and that's the one you keep handing down for generation to generation.
Well, and I think there's a common misconception that they're hard to take care of. It's not.
I think they're easier.
You can't leave it hanging out on your stove with food in it all day.
Yep.
And you just need to make sure that you dry it and then turn it back on the stove on some hot heat. Add a little bit of neutral oil to it to kind of keep it from rusting out. And then let that oil cook back into the pan and then take that. All right, chicken is looking awesome. I'm going to add a little bit of oil into the pan. We're going to let that get hot. I want to see that oil moving in there like water. When I know that it's moving like water and I can start to see just a tiny little bit of smoke come from the pan, then I'm going to know that my pan is hot and it's ready to add the chicken. I don't really want to add my chicken before then because I'm looking to get a really good, nice sear. I want to see caramelization. I want to see color because I know that that's going to equal flavor here. I can already feel it start to get hot. Cast iron skillets transfer heat really, really well. Just another reason that we love it. Let's talk about what we are using to serve our shawarma in. So I have here some little thin bagel sandwiches. As long as you're okay with having a little bit of gluten in your day, these are really, really phenomenal because they've got all of your seasonings on top, some sesame seeds in there to give a little bit of texture to it, some poppy seeds in there. So if you can have seeds in your diet, that's going to be a really good way to go. Not many people eat a shawarma sandwich. It's usually in a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I have here is a gluten-free tomato wrap. So we're going to make one in there as well.
You can really put it in anything, though. Like, they'll sell pita pockets at the store.
Pita pockets, exactly. Yep. Traditionally, it's pita pockets. So I thought, let's show them something a little bit different.
You can cut even down on your carbs there if you're trying to cut back a little bit. Just eat the shawarma with the hummus on top.
Shawarma in a bowl, just like the egg roll in a bowl. All right. Into the pan. My chicken is going. I'm fanning it out so it's very single layer. You can instantly smell those spices as soon as they hit that oil. And we're looking for a safe temperature to eat here, 165 degrees. Not having any sticky issues here with the chicken in the pan, and that is definitely because we heated our pan ahead of time and we put a nice amount of oil in it. If you're worried about your oil getting too hot or you notice that it's starting to get too hot, you can always finish your chicken in the oven. There's no shame in that. I'm going to wash my hands up, folks. We'll let this chicken go for a second, and then we will go ahead and assemble our beef salad. That smells amazing. Now, everybody always wants to flip their chicken right here, but really we're just going to do the peeking method first. We want it to have a nice crispy brown exterior before we go lifting and turning it over, because that's our last chance to really achieve that perfect sear on there. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt to the top for texture, just a tiny bit, because I already had some in my marinade. But I do love just to have a little bit of seasoning texture on the outside of my meat. So I almost always find myself just doing a little extra seasoning, just a tiny bit. This is looking amazing. Again, I'm just peeking. I'm seeing which parts of the pan are cooking hotter so that I can start to move the pan on the flame where it needs to be. I started at like a medium-high heat. Now I'm backing down a little bit to a medium heat because my goal is to definitely cook everything to 165 in the pan. But again, no shame if it has to go from the stove top to the oven. That's just one other great thing about cooking in the cast iron skillet is if I think it's getting too hot here, I'm afraid that my oil is going to burn, I'm going to pop it in the oven. I'm going to finish it there. So we are definitely looking for some good color here. And this has exactly what I'm looking for. So nice caramelized seasonings on there. Just a little bit longer on these other pieces. I noticed that the front of my pan was going a lot hotter than this part towards me. So I moved my pan a little bit away from the burner on that side to keep my chicken cooking evenly. That way it's all kind of done at the same time. There we go. This is looking beautiful.
It smells so good in here.
Yeah. Let that go just a bit longer. Yum.
Not much else to say.
Good smell there.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect. Right. We're going to keep an eye on that. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get our salad together. So I'm going to grab a platter. Meet you right back here. This salad has a lot of beautiful color on it. So I'm going to use a white plate so that it really shows off everything that's happening. Got two different kinds of greens here today. Really one of my goals when I'm working with superfoods or trying to integrate them is get rid of things like iceberg and romaine because they're mostly water. They don't have a ton of nutritional values in them. So you may as well swap it out. The greener the leaf, the better, basically. So we've talked about kale. I know y'all hate it, but this would be a great way to integrate some of that kale in there, even if you're just cutting some of your regular lettuce with a little bit of kale. I love these power greens here. These are great. This is a mix of baby spinach, mizuna, chard, and kale. So this is going to be a great one for that. And now I'm finding these a lot, and I love these greens because they come with microgreens inside. I'm a fan of. This one here is arugula, microgreens, some red romaine, butter lettuce, a little bit of green leaf. So we're going to do a little bit of both. We're going to put a little bit of this down because it's so pretty. And we're going to do some of our power greens. And check my chicken here. Flip the pieces I have not yet flipped. Oh,
Man.
Looking good here. Looking good.
One more peek at that.
Oh, yeah. Looking pretty awesome. So again, we're shooting for that 165 range. The great part about thighs is if you overcook them a little bit, it's not a noticeable thing. A lot of people like their thighs a little bit more well done. These are some beautiful things. Oh, look at that. We'll give those a little bit of a mix around. We're going to take a little bit of our dressing here. Give that a stir to emulsify it and bring it all back together. And I would just dress your greens as you go. Then we're going to add a little bit of our beef, a little bit of our corn, some of our pistachios, and then last but not least, I'm going to grab my goat cheese out of the fridge. Now, heaven forbid you don't like goat cheese. I know that does happen every once in a while. Feta would be a really nice substitution. It's another really low-fat cheese. It's a great diet cheese. We're not getting cheese in day 3 paleo, so you better load up. And since we put our cheese back in the fridge, it's really easy for me to pull it apart, kind of like just a little curd, and distribute it across my salad. And I want just a couple more beets on top to shine. And that looks amazing. Okay, we'll put that out front here. So we can get a nice close-up of that. And then I think we're going to have some chicken done here.
Man, look at that.
That looks pretty good. We'll give this a temp check. See if we're at that 165 that we're looking for. But I'm thinking we're getting pretty close. So to temp my chicken, I'm going to find the thickest part of the meat, stick my thermometer through. But some of my chicken thighs are a little bit different size than others. So I'm going to be sure that in this particular instance, I test several pieces of the meat in the pan. We are close, but we are not quite there. We're right around that 150 range, so not quite where we want to be. We just need to go a little bit higher. Just a couple minutes on that, folks, which gives us just the right amount of time to be able to slice up our veggies to add to our wrap. So what are we working with today? We've got some Roma tomatoes. We've got an English cucumber, which has less seed, also has less liquid. And then you could also do some of your greens that we just had. And then, of course, we have the hummus. Cut off a little piece of the cucumber. That's fine today. And then a staple in there is a little bit of red onion. For this particular application, I'm going to slice my red onion paper thin so that it's easy to wrap in my wrap, put in my sandwich. And I'm going to do the same with my cucumber. You could use a mandolin, but I'm going to use my knife today so that I don't dirty another one. You could put bell peppers in there. All right, and then our tomatoes. Oh, yeah. All right, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this time we're going to pass the test. Test them all, folks, and they are all registering over 165. So we'll let those rest in the pan for a second. Finish our veggies. The last thing I want to do is just bring a little bit of char onto those bagel buns so that they aren't like a raw bagel, but instead almost like a boiled or a buttered bagel. So I'll move my chicken over so that it can cool. Bring another pot to the party here. And I'm just going to fire that up for my little bagel bread here. Just going to do one of these. And again, you could buy some pita pockets, buy lavash wraps. You could make your own naan. I'm going to put a little bit of oil into the pan and get that hot. Rub my bagel around in that. And we'll let those get just a little bit toasty like you would your hamburger bun. Back to our filling ingredients. We've got our tomato. We've got our fun lettuces behind us. And we've got our onion and our cucumber. So we are ready to go. Last thing we have to do is cut our chicken. So traditionally, shawarma is served on a big platter. Everybody kind of grabs their own toppings. Everybody grabs their own chicken, and it's just a big pile of meat. Today, we're actually going to assemble a sandwich and a wrap for us. Now that we have all of the components and the moving parts, I'm going to pull out just a couple of my thighs. I won't eat them all just yet. Give it a nice thin. Beautiful, juicy. And the more char on those pieces, the better.
True that. That's where all the food's at.
All right. Now, we just need a little char on our bagel buns here. Ready to go. These are starting to get a little color on them, I can feel. And then let's get our hummus. Maybe I'll take the scraps, right? Still have some in the food processor. That's what I'm looking for. A little bit of color on my bun, just to toast it off to bring a little bit of flavor to the party. Almost there. All right. So we'll lay our bottom faces down. Our tops out. And we're going to get our shell just. All right. And then we'll layer on our hummus first. That's going to be our glue that holds our sandwich together. Spread that all around. Definitely you don't want to skimp on the hummus.
At least not on mine.
And again, you could make a tzatziki dish or a tzatziki sauce, which is also very classic sauce for a shawarma. But we have done tzatziki with you all before. So if you want to go back and find that recipe, you certainly could. But we didn't want to make that again, so we're doing the hummus. Some tomatoes on there. A little bit of cube. A little bit of our raw onion. Okay. We're going to go ahead and do our wrap. Again, not skimping on the hummus.
We cannot stress enough, not skimping on them.
Right. A little bit of chicken. Pita, some cubes, some of our red onions. Why not? Let's do a little bit of our microgreens. These lettuces never last long, so you want to use them up when you can. Ooh, Joe, do you want to eat that? Or
Yeah. Yeah. I sure do.
Me too. That looks amazing. And our wrap, which has a nice little toasty texture going on to that as well. Put all that back inside. Whoop. As usual, I've packed it way too full.
That's how a shawarma wrap always comes.
I really truly believe that.
It doesn't matter where you get it. Every time I've ever gotten one anywhere, it comes with a hole in the middle, leaking hummus. It's how you know it's a good wrap. Oh my gosh.
Our salad. Now that is a superfood lunch.
Yeah, it is. Man.
Thanks everybody for joining us for day 2. Today was all about superfoods, the best foods that you can fill your body with. Be working on your wellness in 2022. We'll see you back tomorrow for day 3, which is paleo. How did they used to live off of the land? Think about getting rid of all of the man-made foods and products that we've integrated into our lifestyle and just concentrating on nothing but healthy and whole. We'll see you back tomorrow for day 3. Thanks, everyone.